Welcome, everyone, to this YouTube exclusive video for the PFF Fantasy Podcast. I'm John Macri, and I am back with another quick video covering some thoughts on our rookie fantasy options. We just recently covered several rookies primed to break out in year one, so rookies that we can trust in 2025. And naturally, today I'll be going over some rookies who we should not necessarily be counting on in year one, despite the high draft capital. So this will be a focus on fantasy options drafted round one or round two of the NFL draft, who are either dealing with tougher competition on their own teams or are expected to be more developmental type picks. So some of the players that made the list last year include like Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Legette, Rome Odunze, who were all highly drafted, but not worth banking on as rookies for fantasy football. So same idea today, really just highlighting some of the players and reasons why we should temper expectations for similar players from the 2025 class. So I'll start with Ebuka, the 19th overall pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Ohio State. So Ebuka, he was the third wide receiver selected in the 2025 NFL draft behind Travis Hunter and Tetra McMillan, though his situation not nearly as ideal. The Buccaneers are a team that obviously offer not one, but two high-end vets at the position in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, creating, I'd say, significant target competition for the rookie Ebuka, who hasn't even really been a wide receiver one for his team, even in college, where he also dealt with elite competition. So you look at Mike Evans, 26.2%, Chris Godwin, 24.6%, both ranked inside the top 20 at the position in target rate, those percentages represent. So that really didn't allow anybody else to thrive in that offense. So when both Evans and Chris Godwin were healthy in 2024, meaning they ran at least 15 routes in a game, the third receiving option for the Bucs averaged just 5 targets per game. So without weekly touchdowns, that isn't likely to provide much consistent fantasy value. And look, it's not impossible that Ebuka emerges as a weekly option for Baker Mayfield, especially if Godwin maybe takes a while to bounce back from his 2024 injury, and if Evans starts to slow down at 32 years old in year 12 of his NFL career. So I wouldn't count him out completely, but assuming everyone is in place in 2025, it's not an easy path at all. Beyond this season, as Evans and Godwin get older, the path will definitely get clearer. But for now, we're tempering expectations for the 19th overall pick. He's currently being drafted ahead of both fellow rookies, Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris, who, despite slightly lower draft capital, arguably have a much clearer path to targets as rookies. All right, let's go to another wide receiver being drafted ahead of those two aforementioned rookies with decent path to targets, Higgins and Harris. And that's Luther Burton out of the Chicago Bears, a player who was a fringe first-round pick heading into the 2025 NFL draft. And while he fell to the second round, he actually got drafted after Jaden Higgins, but still a highly drafted wide receiver with big expectations for his NFL career, right? So unfortunately, when you look at Burton's situation right now, he faces high-end target competition, and a lot of it in his rookie year, that is. So DJ Moore coming off a season with the second most targets for his career with 137. And then you got 2023 top 10 pick Rome Odunze looking to take on a bigger role this season. So Odunze specifically was a player that Ben Johnson has been praising quite a bit here early on in OTA season. And then if that wasn't enough, the team also used a top 10 pick on tight end Colston Loveland. So there are a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago. Now, there is a part of me that can see a path for Burton in year one because he offers an intriguing skill set that I think could allow him to be Ben Johnson's like new version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is obviously like the ideal outcome, even if the number of passing game options kind of make that a little more unlikely. Right now, though, considering the crowded depth chart, I'm not putting too much faith in Burton to have like a year one breakout. Also, it's not a guarantee that Caleb Williams breaks out under Ben Johnson either. And with all those weapons around him, for the record, I think he will, but there's still risk with Caleb if he doesn't improve from his 32nd ranked PFF passing grade last year in his rookie year. So that just kind of adds reasons to temper expectations, at least in 2025. Okay, my lone running back on the list today is Travion Henderson of the New England Patriots, currently being drafted as the RB21 on Underdog right now. And I'm just not completely sold that he'll be able to return that RB2 type value in year one. And I get the optimism because he was essentially, the consensus RB3 pre-draft and now an early second round pick coming out of the NFL draft. Though, so I'm fine kind of considering Henderson as like a top young running back in the league, though he may not be fully unleashed in year one at least. And part of the reason for that is Ramondre Stevenson, who, yes, he had a down season in 2024, but that down season still allowed him to carry the ball more than 200 times. He added 33 receptions in there. So thinking about, what Stevenson brings to the table, he is a bigger back capable of taking goal line carries, of which he's been the team leader over the past 3 seasons. He's taken 36 carries, accounting for 55% of the team's rushing attempts in goal-to-go situations, with the next closest player only taking 7 since 2022. So Stevenson, he also signed a 4-year contract extension in 2024. So the team has significantly invested in him and Henderson, which could create the committee backfield for which new offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels has become known for, right? So McDaniels has generally had one back handle the bulk of the carries and the other handle receiving duties. So Stevenson getting more work on early downs and Henderson maybe getting more work on passing downs wouldn't be a huge surprise, and really kind of a potential reason why 2025 might not allow Henderson to deliver on that current RB2 draft capital right now. Okay, next up is the first round wide receiver drafted by the Green Bay Packers since 2002. That's Matthew Golden. And look, Golden's first round draft capital, it's impossible to ignore, but currently being drafted just ahead of Stephon Diggs and Brandon Ayuk, who, yes, are 2 wide receivers coming off injury, but sounds like they'll be ready for week 1 and just better bets for consistent production at the very least, but also ahead of Cooper Kupp, his Packers teammate Jaden Reed, and then some much better bets at other positions like TJ Hawkinson and Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray, DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones. Now, part of that is Underdog is a best ball format, but this is still early for, I think, a potential inconsistent big play option. So just looking at the Packers receiving core, I know it isn't exactly star-studded, but there are several capable starters, including Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and even Tucker Kraft. So all 4 of those players saw at least 70 targets last year, making Green Bay one of just 4 teams, with the playoffs included, to hit that mark. Now, at the same time, Dontavian Wicks, who led the team in targets with 80, that was the lowest team leading total across the entire 2024 season. So on one hand, the Packers desperately need a top receiver to break out. And on the other, there's potentially more mouths to feed than it seems, right? And the last part of it for me with Golden as one of the potential barriers is his college production as well. He failed to crack even 2.0 yards per route run for his career, which has led to a lot more failed fantasy producers in the NFL than not historically. So that includes names like Xavier Legette and AD Mitchell from as recently as last year, and not to write them off completely just yet, but talking about year 1 expectations, it might take a little bit longer at the very best. Now, again, like everyone on this list, it's not impossible for Golden to deliver on his ADP, especially if his final 4 college games were any indication. Actually, the only name that I got wrong from this list last year was Brian Thomas Jr., who was included for like similar college production reasons that pointed to maybe a longer term play versus immediate impact as a rookie. And he definitely proved me wrong. So maybe Golden can deliver similarly. However, the odds say he's going to take some time to get there at the next level. Okay, last name, a really obvious one. I know you don't have to tell me, but that's why he couldn't be omitted from this list either. And that's first round quarterback Jackson Dart, now of the New York Giants. And the reason he's worth mentioning is because first round quarterbacks are often in a good position to start at some point as rookies. But with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston there, it makes it so that there isn't really a need to rush things for Jackson Dart. They have obviously those 2 veteran quarterbacks ahead of him on the depth chart. So it gives Dart some much needed development time before being thrown into a starting role, especially on a team that maybe isn't in the best position yet to give him an easier time as a starter at the next level. So I think there's hope for Dart. He comes out of college with a very strong PFF passing grade in back-to-back seasons in Lane Kiffin's offense. So it just feels like there's still work to be done as far as his overall accuracy, just not being where it'll need to be in the NFL. He posted just a 60% catchable pass rate for his college career. That ranked 58th percentile among quarterback prospects since 2017. Just 34% catchable pass rate on 20-plus yard throws. That was a 30th percentile mark. So he really just needs to be afforded more time than most first-round quarterbacks before emerging as a starter. So expectations should, and to be fair, are set low for year one for Jackson Dart. That'll do it for this quick one today. 5 rookies with a difficult path to fantasy relevancy in year one. But as always, let me know in the comments if you have any unmentioned, highly drafted rookies who you don't have any interest in for 2025, or if you think I'm wrong on one of these players. Feel free to share, respectively, of course. But don't forget to like and subscribe while you're here. I'd greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. And until next time, peace out.